And finally tonight, the latest marathon for Lake Tuggeranong College's solar car, the Spirit of Canberra. The $140,000 car, running on a tank of sunshine, left Sydney this morning bound for Canberra. The trek was set up as a preview to January's 1,800-kilometre CitiPower SunRace from Sydney to Melbourne via Canberra. Late this afternoon, the Spirit of Canberra was making good progress down the Federal Highway. The high-tech car arriving at Questacon only an hour or so behind schedule after being slowed by cloudy conditions.
Well, in a world first, a Canberra high-tech firm has launched an electric-powered truck with a vision for the transport of the future. The truck is powered by 2 electric motors and heavy-duty batteries, which are constantly recharged by another small motor. The truck is able to reach speeds equivalent to petrol-powered vehicles. Its designers from the engineering company Vision 2 have chosen to register the truck in the ACT. It will compete in the CitiPower SunRace from Sydney to Melbourne.
This is 10 Capital News with Janine Bennett and Greg Hughes.
A world first for Canberra today with the unveiling of an electric-powered truck. With potential much greater than its size, the truck, known as Vision 2, is all electric. It's driven by 2 electric motors and 20 12-volt batteries, which are constantly recharged during operation. The hybrid electric truck boasts similar speed and range to petrol-powered vehicles, but with virtually no damage to the environment. Vision 2 will get its first real test on the roads later this month in the CitiPower SunRace.
Central Queensland University farewelled its solar racing car today as it headed off for the national CitiPower solar race later this month. The week-long Sydney to Melbourne event will be the first start for the Capricorn solar flare.
Central Queensland University's solar racing car had its send-off today for its first big test next Sunday in the CitiPower solar race.
The race is our first attempt at solar car racing. We've got a brand new team, brand new vehicle. So what we're intending to do is get to Sydney and get the car safely to Melbourne and hopefully come somewhere around the middle of the pack.
Dr. Wolf's team was still making the final adjustments on the Capricorn solar flare. The event will go for 7 days, with the racer reaching speeds up to 92 kilometres per hour. But naturally, that all depends on one thing.
Well, fine weather is quite important to us. We don't handle rain very well.
Since the university bought the car in March last year, over $100,000 has gone into the project. Australia currently leads the world in solar cell technology, and money is continually being spent on the development of solar-powered cars.
Stanwell is an organisation that's looking at alternative energy sources, and the opportunity to help somebody develop a little bit of solar technology is something that we're happy to do as well.
But even with money going into such developments, Dr. Wolf says he can't see a production solar-powered car in the near future.
It's unlikely, I think, that they would be purely solar-powered. You tend to need a little bit more energy. I think what is reasonable is to have an electric vehicle which has solar panels on it.
Evan Wilkes, Win News.
The 11:30 News with Loreen Deal.
And while we're warned about the dangers of the sun, it was the lack of it that caused heartbreak for one group of adventurers. A team from the University of New South Wales needed the sun to break the Perth to Sydney solar car record. Well, the team has just made it into Sydney this morning, and we're joined by Mark Hewitt, a support technician with the team. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? A long, hard haul.
Yeah, we're all pretty drained. It's been a long 10 days, but we're very, very happy to be here, as you can imagine.
Well, Mark, how much behind Dick Smith's 8.5-day record were you in the end?
We came in 36 hours late, and after 5 days of bad weather, I think we take some consolation that it wasn't more.
Well, you must have been looking up the skies across the Nullarbor and just cursing.
Cursing and yeah, there was a lot of forlorn faces when every morning we'd get up and it would still be overcast. But yeah, we just kept on going and here we are. And I think that's it's been a credit to the team.
Well, when the rain did start tumbling down, what did you think? How did you think the car would handle that?
There were some safety concerns, but it kept on going. We reduced speed, and well, not totally by choice, although, and it kept on going through. The drivers commented that they felt very safe, and yeah, we were really, really pleased with the way it handled.
And despite not breaking that record, Mark, when the sun did shine, were you happy with the way the car handled?
Oh yeah, the last 3 days have just been a rush. Coming through from South Australia up through just a brief stint through Victoria, and then absolutely hammering up into Sydney, and yeah, people were just, you couldn't wipe the smiles off people's faces at the end of each day.
Now we can see you've got the rest of the team behind you there, Mark. How many people have been involved in this challenge?
There's probably between 40 and 50 people overall, but 25 of us were the lucky ones that got to do this trip, and yeah, there's many hundreds more of supporters that you know, we owe a great deal of gratitude to. And
I suppose the girls were the luckiest ones of all. They got to drive the car.
Well, some would say so. It's very hot in there, and it's been a bit slow, so yeah, I guess we owe them one too.
And are you going to have another go at the challenge, Mark?
I'd say so. We've got the CitiPower SunRace starting next week, and that's a big event for us. And then later on in the year, the World Solar Challenge. And if we could fit it in, we'd love to have a go at it. Dick Smith's laid down a challenge to us, and I think we'd love to try and take that up.
All right, well, all the best with that, Mark. I'll have to leave you there. Thanks for your time. Mark Hewitt with the Solar Car Team Challenge.
Finally, organisers of a failed bid on the transcontinental solar car record are already planning their next attempt. The University of New South Wales team drove into Sydney this morning, blaming unseasonal weather for its trouble.
It was a case of better late than never when the solar-powered SunSwift hit Sydney traffic this morning. They'd already missed the 8.5-day Trans-Australia record set by Melbourne-based Aurora by 2 days. But feats of endurance were still being claimed.
This is the record from Perth to Sydney, the world record for commercially available solar cells. So give us that, please.
And there was congratulations and praise from Dick Smith, who was involved in the record-setting 1994 trip.
Without any doubt, if they'd had reasonable weather, they'd be here probably in about 7.5, 8 days, so they would have beaten the record.
When they left Perth on New Year's Day, hopes were high. But not long into the 4,000-kilometre trip, the weather turned bad. And after 5 days of heavy rain and winds in South Australia, the timetable was shattered. The team not record breakers, but drought breakers.
We've achieved most of what we intended, which was to make a fantastic solar car, and it is.
And as for celebrations tonight...
We've been sitting in a car for 3 weeks and we're going to go crazy!
But the rest won't last long. SunSwift will compete in a CitiPower race from Sydney to Melbourne this weekend, and then the main event, the World Solar Challenge from Darwin to Adelaide in October. Lindy Kerrin, ABC News, Sydney.
First at 5, 10 News with Natasha Belling.
Cars that run on sun are racing the clock from Sydney to Melbourne. 14 lean machines are blazing along the bitumen in a bid to pip petrol at the post.
A green Grand Prix drawing crowds at the Sydney starter line, racing cars powered by solar energy in an environmentally friendly event.
To draw attention to the fact that the technology in these vehicles flows on into practical, everyday sort of vehicles that you will be driving in the very near future.
Aurora out to defend its title in the 1,790-kilometre course to Melbourne.
Last year we won very easily, but this year there's some terrific competition.
The SunSwift crew's recent attempt to break Dick Smith's record ruined by rain, they'll be trying for line honours.
With thunderstorms forecast for the first leg of the race, the SunSwift crew say they're fully prepared for another brush with bad weather.
Well, we already know it's watertight because it rained when we crossed the Nullarbor, so I think it'll be fine.
The Super Sun cars will be on the run for a week. Katrina Hines, 10 News.
This is National 9 News with Joe Hall.
A fleet of solar and electric cars are headed for Melbourne after rolling out of Sydney today. The harbour city had plenty of help from Mother Nature for the start of SunRace 99. There were some last-minute map checks with a field of 16 teams from 5 states. And for some crews, the 1,790-kilometre race will certainly be a tight squeeze.
They turned on the requisite sunshine for the start of SunRace 99. Environment Minister Pam Allen flagged away a field of 16 teams from 5 states, competing in this year's Green Grand Prix. It's just the first leg of the scorching 1,790-kilometre Sydney to Melbourne race. It'll be a tight squeeze for some as they travel via Canberra, Wagga Wagga and Mildura before rolling into Victoria's Albert Park next Saturday.
And powering into the national capital today, SunRace 99, the environmentally friendly vehicles travelling from Sydney to Melbourne.
The latest solar car technology took to the highway today. 16 entries in SunRace 99 set a blistering pace on the first leg from Sydney to Canberra. While the fastest cars easily matched their fossil fuel counterparts, the race's focus is on what we will be driving in the 21st century.
There was no shortage of energy from the sun as they lined up for the start. Last year's winner, the $3 million Aurora 101, was back again. Also at the starting line, less sophisticated cars. This electric-powered Lacer racing for the first time.
The car travels about 100 kilometres per charge. It costs you about $1 to recharge the car, and the car has a maximum speed of about 130 kilometres an hour.
A few last-minute repairs, tyre checks, and they were racing, making their way through city streets. But once on the open highway, some of these cars reach 100 kilometres an hour.
Think about what you're going to be driving in the future. Think about where the energy is going to be coming from. This is all about renewable energy technology.
The first of the field reached Canberra in record time. Sunshine staying with the contenders all the way. Racing is a sport usually dominated by men, but in this event, most of the drivers are women.
Up to 45, 46, 47 degrees in the car. So what we try and do where possible is put female drivers in. They have better heat tolerance.
I don't find it uncomfortable at all. I quite enjoy it in here. It's fun to drive.
Most of the cars arrived in Canberra by mid-afternoon. First to cross the line, Spirit of Canberra. Running second, University of Queensland Solar Fair. The race is overnight in Canberra and set off for the second leg to Mildura tomorrow morning. Jacqueline Arias, ABC News, Sydney.
10's Late News with Natasha Belling.
Cars that run on sunshine are hoping for clear skies as they race nature and the clock from Sydney to Melbourne. 14 lean machines are burning up the bitumen in a bid to pip petrol at the post.
A Green Grand Prix drawing crowds at the Sydney starter line, racing cars powered by solar energy in an environmentally friendly event.
To draw attention to the fact that the technology in these vehicles flows on into practical, everyday sort of vehicles that you will be driving in the very near future.
Aurora out to defend its title in the 1,790-kilometre course to Melbourne.
Last year we won very easily, but this year there's some terrific competition.
The SunSwift crew's recent attempt to break Dick Smith's record ruined by rain, they'll be trying for line honours.
With thunderstorms forecast for the first leg of the race, the SunSwift crew say they're fully prepared for another brush with bad weather.
Well, we already know it's watertight because it rained when we crossed the Nullarbor, so I think it'll be fine.
The Super Sun cars will be on the run for a week. Katrina Hines, 10 News.
A minor hiccup today for the Lake Tuggeranong solar car team. After leading the field last night, the Spirit of Canberra experienced battery problems this morning, causing it to slip to third place. Competition in the race to Melbourne is among the strongest assembled.
Two very good universities. We've actually got our old car down here, which qualified first in qualifying, so very stiff competition.
But the crew is confident of making up for lost time on the next leg across the Hay Plain.
This is 10 Capital News with Janine Bennett and Greg Hughes.
Canberra's Lake Tuggeranong College solar car has dropped to second place in the Sydney to Melbourne SunRace, with $3 million glamour entry Aurora still in third position. The event is likely to go to the team with the greatest endurance.
Perfect solar racing conditions greeted the cars in Canberra this morning for the second leg of this year's Sydney to Melbourne SunRace. Yesterday, private entries battled it out with university and high school teams. Canberra's Lake Tuggeranong College was first across the line.
We've just about broken or burnt out every electric or electronic component in it, and we've gone through, made everything bulletproof. So what we're aiming for is reliability, and yesterday it was really reliability that got us home.
The first stage defeat was too much for the Sunshine State, the University of Queensland sending a team member to Brisbane for spare parts in the hope of giving Sunshark the winning edge.
We had a bit of a problem in the wheel motor in that it was twisting around itself. We sent him back and he was able to fix it in a couple of hours at the university, and we flew him back down last night on the last flight.
The move paid off. 5 minutes into the second leg, with the Spirit of Canberra stalling, Sunshark powered towards Wagga, reaching speeds of over 100 kilometres an hour. Last year's winner, Aurora, was unable to catch the leaders today, but with $3 million worth of technology behind them, the team is hoping their superior componentry will triumph in the long run. The race is not just about winning, losing, or even competing. For most of the teams, it's an opportunity to further develop and refine solar technologies.
This money is being spent with the purpose of developing and advancing the awareness of renewable energy technology, and that flows on into practical electric vehicles.
The race is expected to finish this Saturday at Melbourne's Albert Park. For Peter Bullock, 10 News.
You're watching Prime Local News. The Solar Supercar Challenge has arrived in Wagga. This year there are 16 competitors in the CitiPower SunRace. But there was drama for last year's winner in the run to the finish of this stage.
Sad and sorry sight for Aurora. The $3 million team could only wave as competitors slipped by, just 10 k's from home when its batteries went flat.
We're right down on power, and we just haven't got enough power to drive up this hill. So we're just stopping to recharge a bit, and then we'll be on.
Frustration as the group of high school students from Tuggeranong in Canberra swept by, seeing Aurora slip to 4th. Aurora, unhappy rule changes, has forced it to leave its extra special $1.2 million solar panel at home. At the finish of today's stage, it was the team that's a quarter of the price, Sunshark, the winners.
Doing speeds up to 110 kilometres an hour today, so I can't break the speed limit, unfortunately, but we did very well.
As they welcomed in the University of New South Wales SunSwift 2 car, an insight to what it's like steering one of these from a go-karter who's used to high-speed action. Is this high-speed action?
It's high-speed action, but it doesn't handle anywhere near as well or brake as well or any of the nice things that go-karts can do.
High speeds are being shown with records set to tumble this year. Inside, though, it's 40 degrees for drivers, up to 50 when stationary. Today's second place getters Tuggeranong had only one answer to the heat, handed over to a female.
I think the girls actually withstand the heat better, and they're also a lot smaller, so they fit better.
On its side, this Australian Institute of Sport jacket.
They took them over to the Atlanta Olympics, I think, and they have pockets in them that you put frozen bits in, and they keep you cool.
The cars will be on display here at Bolton Park tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. The flag drops at 10 a.m. Grant Daniel, Prime Local News.
Air conditioning would be handy. It's events like the solar cars which are bringing tourists to Wagga. Latest figures show, despite a lull of visitors nationwide, Wagga is sustaining tourism growth.
Well, while the region swelters, there are those more than happy to see the sun continue to shine. Competitors in SunRace 99 rolled into Wagga today.
Sunshark by name, shark by nature. Queensland University's entrant in the Solar Car Challenge left all comers in its wake as it cruised across the finishing line in Wagga today. Finishing the Canberra-Wagga leg of its 7-stage challenge, team coordinators more than pleased with its performance.
Really happy with the race at the moment. We had a really fast day today and yesterday, so we're hoping to be in first place by the end of today.
The Sunshark was a standout commuter on the Sturt Highway, but it wasn't holding up traffic. The $250,000 creation capable of speeds of up to 120 kilometres an hour.
We had some major glitches at the start of the race, but we were able to get started without losing any time, so we're very happy with that. Cars performed perfectly since then. We had a minor electrical fault today, but that was all.
16 teams from 5 states are taking part in the challenge, aimed at raising awareness of renewable resources. And there's no denying the competition's hotting up.
We probably averaged about 95 or close to. We had some good stretches, about 110, that sort of thing.
The cars head for Hay tomorrow. Sean Burns, Win News.
Scientists have been trying to develop solar technology as an efficient and clean alternative to fossil fuel energy. But this summer we've seen mixed fortunes for solar-powered vehicles. While a solar-powered boat travelled the length of the Murray River to set a new world record, an attempt to break the solar car record from Perth to Sydney was thwarted by bad weather. That team is competing again, this time in this year's SunRace, over 2,000 gruelling kilometres through New South Wales and Victoria. The race attracts all types, from $3 million teams to the smallest of high schools. But as Rebecca Bailey reports, sometimes sunlight and a great deal of enthusiasm aren't quite enough to reap solar success.
Cook your toast at breakfast, we could do 6 kilometres at 100 kilometres per hour for a single slice.
It's a great spectacle. These visually spectacular solar cars, they're little pieces of dynamic sculpture.
See that Madam can do something as big as this, like, yeah, it just brings a lot of attention to Madam sort of thing.
It's getting late in Mannum, 2 hours east of Adelaide, but the town's school children are hard at work. It may be the smallest high school in South Australia, but the students have big plans.
Because if we're laying straight forward, our heads aren't going to be too far from the front of the car, and if we hit anything, well, we could go through the windscreen.
Minor detail.
Oh, yeah.
On the drawing board, a solar car to compete in the Solar and Electric Vehicle Challenge from Sydney to Melbourne. Starting with a lot of enthusiasm, a second-hand car for spare parts and a tiny budget, the students have recruited some fine technical minds to help out.
Yeah, I think you're right. Endurance laying on your stomach is going to be a problem.
Alan Smith, formerly a chief engineer at British Aerospace, says solar technology is a natural progression from aircraft design.
The aerodynamics of the car is a dominant feature of the car's performance. The issues of just simply engineering it to have a product that is at minimum weight with maximum performance, very similar to aircraft design.
Yeah. Reece, you might want to go and just get some more.
For Mannum High School teacher Brenton Roy, this is a rare opportunity for these students.
It's pretty hard when there's a lot of unemployment, and it's a town that really has a great deal of potential, but kind of needs a lift. And the kinds of positive stuff that was happening for the kids and for the school and for the community was just outstanding.
But for the students, technological enlightenment and community morale are only part of the attraction. What's the best thing about it?
Just a chance to go to Sydney, because I've never been there before, and just see the country.
How do you reckon you'll go?
Well, hopefully we'll be up there with the top of them, the best of them.
Also heading to Sydney, the Aurora team, based at the CSIRO in Melbourne. Aurora is the defending SunRace champion and has a budget of $3 million to match. Team manager Andrew Lamb says the unique vehicle is leading the drive for better energy efficiency.
From the work we've done up till today, you'll find you'll get more efficient electric fans, refrigerators, washing machines. Anything that uses energy will come down.
Race weekend has arrived and the competitors are going through their last-minute adjustments and trials. There are solar and electric cars, as well as hybrid vehicles, some with a maximum speed to match their fossil-fuelled counterparts.
Some of the electric motors of these cars are running at 98% efficiency. Now that's just fantastic when you compare it to a fossil-fuelled engine that's probably 30, 35% efficient. And that sort of energy efficiency is going to make the whole future of motoring a very different thing.
John Herner calls the event the Green Grand Prix, and he's excited about the calibre of the field. You're not going to put your money on who might win?
I really wouldn't. The 4 top solar car teams are very, very competitive. They're very close.
But with delight comes heartbreak. The Mannum High School team can only watch as their car never left South Australia, the casualty of a blown motor controller.
We got the glue imported from Sydney and it didn't stick.
So the solar panels aren't sticking, only the first half of the car has some solar panels on it, so we had to change it to an electric car, and then when they started it up, the motor control burnt out.
It must be really disappointing for you guys.
Yeah, a lot of people have put lots of effort and stuff in, and Mr. Roy's going to be really upset as well because he's put a lot of personal money and time in.
There's a bit of bad luck with the control panel blowing up on us, but I suppose you got to learn, don't you, somehow. We'll try and join back up at Mildura.
They've learned skills and achieved things that I don't think that they ever thought, they ever considered, let alone sort of wanted to achieve.
Despite disappointment for the Manham team, they'll be back for the World Solar Challenge in October. Meanwhile, the SunRacers expect to have set a blistering pace when they arrive in Melbourne on Saturday. There's still a chance the speed record will be broken again, although for John Herner, that's not the point.
This is not just a plaything, it's about science, it's about technology, it's about environment, it's about jobs, it's about exports. It's a very multifaceted event.
Rebecca Bailey reporting there, and that's the program for now. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Until then, good night.
This is Prime Local News with Catherine Garrett.
Well, day 3 of the Sydney to Melbourne CitiPower SunRace, and the Lake Tuggeranong team is showing the others how it's done. Back in first position after being dogged by electrical problems yesterday, the Spirit of Canberra too is doing the ACT proud, surprising many other professional racers. The team is aiming to break the solar car 100-kilometre record tomorrow if the weather holds. The cars are expected to reach Melbourne by Saturday afternoon.
The Solar Car Challenge had its fair share of dramas today. Just 6 kilometres from the finish line, the Spirit of Canberra again experienced battery problems. Despite the setback, the Lake Tuggeranong College car finished today's stage from Wagga to Hay well ahead in the field. Canberra's $150,000 car is now neck and neck in points with Victoria's $3 million Ford car.
While Wagga residents complained about the heat today, a group of solar power enthusiasts were soaking up the rays as their high-tech cars took to the road for stage 3 of the CitiPower SunRace.
Day 3 of the challenge, and competitors were up and racing this morning, putting the finishing touches on their cars before hitting the road. For leaders Sunshark, the race to Hay is all about setting a hot pace and establishing a strong lead over rivals the Spirit of Canberra.
We were working most of the night tuning up the vehicle for today, and yeah, but it's all fine now and it's going to go really fast.
While they hosed down the hot rod, the Canberra team relaxed, confident about the trip ahead and sure all its problems are fixed.
We had a puncture in our rear tyre yesterday and just a few little problems with the motor, but they seem to be all fixed. Hopefully everything will be fine today.
The Aurora 101 team predicts their $3 million speedmobile will be hitting the accelerator after a local firm did some minor surgery.
We needed some parts machined. 6:30 in the morning, we called them and said, hey, can you help us? They come on over and they've done some parts for us before the start, so it's terrific.
While the big Wagga crowd stood in awe of the high-tech cars, the leaders were strapped in and mechanics fine-tuned the vehicles before heading for the starting line where Mayor John Harding waved the flag to start the race. It was then off along busy Baylor Street before heading out bush-bound for Hay. Fiona Deer, Win News.
Solar-powered cars have been causing a few heads to turn around the region. The designs for the future left Wagga this morning, travelling through Darlington Point and Narrandera on their way to Hay before running out of sunlight.
Day 3 of the challenge, and competitors were up and racing this morning, putting the finishing touches on their cars before hitting the road. For leaders Sunshark, the race to Hay is all about setting a hot pace and establishing a strong lead over rivals the Spirit of Canberra.
We were working most of the night tuning up the vehicle for today, and yeah, but it's all fine now and it's going to go really fast.
While they hosed down the hot rod, the Canberra team relaxed, confident about the trip ahead and sure all its problems are fixed.
We had a puncture in our rear tyre yesterday and just a few little problems with the motor, but they seem to be all fixed. Hopefully everything will be fine today.
The Aurora 101 team predicts their $3 million speedmobile will be hitting the accelerator after a local firm did some minor surgery.
We needed some parts machined. 6:30 in the morning, we called them and said, hey, can you help us? They come on over, and they've done some parts for us before the start, so it's terrific.
While the big Wagga crowd stood in awe of the high-tech cars, the leaders were strapped in and mechanics fine-tuned the vehicles before heading for the starting line where Mayor John Harding waved the flag to start the race. It was then off along busy Baylor Street before heading out bush bound for Hay. Fiona Deer, Win News.
More success on the road today for the Lake Tuggeranong entry in the CitiPower SunRace. The Actu Spirit of Canberra won the long Hay to Mildura leg by 1 minute over the University of Queensland's SunShark. Solar-powered vehicles, the Spirit of Canberra and Queensland's SunShark, continue to run neck and neck in the CitiPower SunRace to Melbourne. In today's leg, from Mildura to Swan Hill, the Tuggeranong College team finished just 1.5 minutes behind their more fancied university rivals.
This is Prime Local News with Catherine Garrett.
Day 5 of the Sydney to Melbourne Solar Car Challenge, and it was a fight to the line between competition leaders Actu Spirit of Canberra 2 and Queensland University's SunShark. Vying for the overall competition lead, SunShark just managed to scrape in ahead of Canberra's entry, finishing the Mildura to Swan Hill leg in just over 2.5 hours. The race will continue tomorrow. The solar cars expected to arrive in Melbourne on Saturday.
Sydney today turned on the required sunshine for the start of SunRace 99. Hundreds watched at the rocks as the cars were flagged away. A field of 16 teams from 5 states competing in this year's Green Grand Prix. It's just the first leg of the scorching 1,790-kilometre Sydney to Melbourne race. It'll be a tight squeeze for some as they travel via Canberra, Wagga Wagga and Mildura before rolling into Victoria's Albert Park next Saturday.
Tonight, the sole survivor of a plane crash in the Torres Strait airlifted to Cairns. World outrage as Serbs take responsibility for a massacre in Kosovo, and a knockout win for Mike Tyson's comeback. The latest solar car technology took to the highway today. 16 entries in SunRace 99 set a blistering pace on the first leg from Sydney to Melbourne. While the fastest designs easily match their fossil fuel counterparts, the race's focus is on cars for the 21st century.
There was no shortage of energy from the sun as they lined up for the start. Last year's winner, the $3 million Aurora 101, was back again. Also at the starting line, less sophisticated cars. This electric-powered Lacer racing for the first time.
The car travels about 100 kilometres per charge. It costs you about $1 to recharge the car, and the car has a maximum speed of about 130 kilometres an hour.
A few last-minute repairs, tyre checks, and they were racing, making their way through city streets. But once on the open highways, some of these cars reach 100 kilometres an hour.
Think about what you're going to be driving in the future. Think about where the energy is going to be coming from. This is all about renewable energy technology.
The first of the field reached Canberra in record time. Sunshine staying with the contenders all the way. Racing is a sport usually dominated by men, but in this event, most of the drivers are women.
Up to 45, 46, 47 degrees in the car. So what we try and do where possible is put female drivers in. They have better heat tolerance.
I don't find it uncomfortable at all. I quite enjoy it in here. It's fun to drive.
Most of the cars arrived in Canberra by mid-afternoon. First across the line, Spirit of Canberra. Running second, University of Queensland Solar Fair.
Cars that run on sun are racing the clock from Sydney to Melbourne. 14 lean machines are blazing along the bitumen in a bid to pit petrol at the post.
A Green Grand Prix drawing crowds at the Sydney starter line, racing cars powered by solar energy in an environmentally friendly event.
To draw attention to the fact that the technology in these vehicles flows on into practical, everyday
sort of vehicles that you will be driving in the very near future.
Aurora out to defend its title in the 1,790-kilometre course to Melbourne.
Last year we won very easily, but this year there's some terrific competition.
The SunSwift crew's recent attempt to break Dick's best record ruined by rain, they'll be trying for line honours. With thunderstorms forecast for the first leg of the race, the SunSwift crew say they're fully prepared for another brush with bad weather.
Well, we already know it's watertight because it rained when we crossed the Nullarbor, so I think it'll be fine.
The Super Sun cars will be on the run for a week.
The latest solar car technology took to the highway today. 16 entries in SunRace 99 set a blistering pace on the first leg from Sydney to Melbourne. While the fastest designs easily matched their fossil fuel counterparts, the race focus is on what we'll be driving in the 21st century.
There was no shortage of energy from the sun as they lined up for the start. Last year's winner, the $3 million Aurora 101, was back again. Also at the starting line, less sophisticated cars. This electric-powered Lacer racing for the first time.
The car travels about 100 kilometres per charge. It costs you about $1 to recharge the car, and the car has a maximum speed of about 130 kilometres an hour.
A few last-minute repairs, tyre checks, and they were racing, making their way through city streets. But once on the open highways, some of these cars reach 100 kilometres an hour.
Think about what you're going to be driving in the future. Think about where the energy is going to be coming from. This is all about renewable energy technology.
The first of the field reached Canberra in record time. Sunshine staying with the contenders all the way. Racing is a sport usually dominated by men, but in this event, most of the drivers are women.
Up to 45, 46, 47 degrees in the car. So what we try and do where possible is put female drivers in. They have better heat tolerance.
I don't find it uncomfortable at all. I quite enjoy it in here. It's fun to drive.
Most of the cars arrived in Canberra by mid-afternoon. First to cross the line, Spirit of Canberra. Running second, University of Queensland Solar Fair. The race is overnight in Canberra and set off for the second leg to Mildura tomorrow morning. Jacqueline Arias, ABC News, Sydney.
And that's our news for now. Pretty G will be back with you tomorrow night at 7. From me, good night.
Sydney turned on the requisite sunshine for the start of SunRace 99, the biggest solar challenge at the Rocks today. Environment Minister Pam Allen flagged away a field of 16 teams from 5 states competing in this year's Green Grand Prix. It's just the first leg of the scorching 1,790-kilometre Sydney to Melbourne race. Let's hope it keeps sunny for them. And that's our news this Sunday, the 17th of January. Good night.
Don't forget the cricket. Good night.
This is Win News with Dennis Walter.
Central Victoria is preparing to play host to solar and electric cars as they make their way from Sydney to Melbourne this week. The New South Wales versus Victoria Challenge began on Sunday, and the first cars are expected to arrive in Swan Hill's Riverside Park on Thursday afternoon. Then it's on to Bendigo Friday. The cars arriving in Littleton Terrace between 2 p.m. and 6 o'clock. Echuca residents will catch a glimpse of the unusual vehicles as they pass their way through to Bendigo.
8 cars left the ornamental lake this morning, including the $3 million solar supercar Aurora 101, last year's winner of the SunRace.
Energy that you spend making a slice of toast in the morning will take this car down the highway at 100 kilometres an hour for 5 kilometres.
The Spirit of Canberra and the University of Queensland's Sunshark are currently battling for first position with another unexpected contender.
We were surprised at how thin this competition is.
We've got a dark horse in the form of the University of New South Wales coming through the field very reliably.
The Mildura Magic team broke down 2 days ago, but staying with the race, keen to compete again next year.
The guys have worked throughout the year to produce this delightful car. They were a bit short on experience and knowledge, enthusiasm they had by the bucket load.
On the Calder Highway, the cars reached speeds of up to 80 kilometres an hour, providing a rare spectacle for passing motorists. Some ran into difficulties, particularly the electric ones, the impact Porsche needing a lift once out of town. Mr Horner says the Porsche is driven regularly around Sydney, running on a few cents a day after a nightly recharge.
There'll be many fuel systems for them, but the motive force that turns the wheels will be an electric motor.
The vehicles are expected to reach Melbourne on Sunday. Lisa Prendergast, Win News.
This is Win News with Dennis Walter.
Cloudy skies delayed the CitiPower SunRace's dramatic entrance into Bendigo late this afternoon. The Spirit of Canberra, the first over the line at 3 o'clock. The 13 solar cars will leave Bendigo's Littleton Terrace at 10 tomorrow morning, en route to the finishing line in Melbourne.
Swan Hill farewelled the CitiPower SunRace earlier today, with sunlight pushing the solar and electric cars along. 13 cars are taking part in the race, which began in Sydney last Sunday and will finish in Melbourne tomorrow. But it wasn't all smooth sailing today along the Murray River route from Swan Hill to Echuca and through to Bendigo this afternoon.
It's been a little bit cloudy, but they're still moving well. They had great sun in Swan Hill yesterday, so they've got plenty of charge in the battery.
It was slow going along the Midland Highway as the space-age looking cars motored along in afternoon traffic. The 13 cars and their entourage will stay in Bendigo tonight. It's the third year Bendigo has been used as a stopover point. Organisers say the cars showcase the latest in solar power technology.
Some of that technology is also showing up in this event in the form of our 200 horsepower electric Porsche. There's a laser, the sort of car that you think of in terms of driving to work in. It's fully electric.
The cars will leave Bendigo from Littleton Terrace from 10 o'clock tomorrow. Organisers say the race is a valuable education tool taking to the roads.
This is an energy form of the future, and the electric vehicle technology, again, we'll see that on our roads. It'll give us cleaner air, it'll reduce our air pollution, and it'll reduce our noise pollution.
Rachel Carbonell, Win News.
Tuggeranong's College Spirit of Canberra solar car looks set to take out the CitiPower SunRace, according to organisers. The race passed through Darlington Point and Hay earlier this week, with locals fascinated by the strange-looking cars. The SunRace will finish in Melbourne tomorrow after a number of honour laps at the Albert Park Grand Prix circuit.
This is Prime Local News with Catherine Garrett.
Tuggeranong College entry in the Solar Car Challenge is hoping to steal line honours from the more fancied university teams and will head off in pole position on the final day. Actu's Spirit of Canberra too is in with a great chance of taking the event, despite a slower leg on day 6 from Swan Hill to Bendigo due to cloudy conditions. The biggest danger is Queensland Uni's Sun Shark, which has been neck and neck with the Canberra entry from day 1. The race will go down to the wire tomorrow with an early afternoon finish expected.
Lake Tuggeranong College has regained the overall lead in the CitiPower SunRace from Sydney to Melbourne. The Spirit of Canberra was a clear winner today on the leg from Swan Hill to Bendigo.
Live from the studios of Channel 9 Perth, this is National 9 News with Dixie Marshall and Bob Harnett.
Finally, a road race where the sun's in the driver's seat. The Solar Challenge, involving 15 vehicles, covered 1,800 kilometres from Sydney to Melbourne with overnight stopovers in country towns. A team from a Canberra secondary school taking the honours after 6 days on the road.
That was a good run today. It's really fun to drive.
The aim of the race is to raise awareness of solar energy.
First at 5, 10 News with Christina Morrissey.
Not so vintage, a race into the future for a group of intrepid solar car enthusiasts. The CitiPower SunRace pitted Australia's best university teams against each other, but a surprise entry from an ACT college beat them all. The Spirit of Canberra, worth a cool $140,000, was ushered to the finishing line on the Albert Park Grand Prix track.
This is National 9 News with Joe Hall.
A group of Canberra secondary school students has outwitted their university counterparts to take victory in the Solar Car Challenge. Powered by the sun's energy, they beat 15 other vehicles in the race from Sydney to Melbourne. Natasha Johnson has more.
Dwarfed by other vehicles on the road, the sleek, oddly shaped cars have attracted plenty of attention as they headed south. The 16 entrants from across the country left Sydney last Sunday, stopping overnight in regional centres before completing the 1,800-kilometre race in Melbourne. The final approach included a spectacular crossing of the Westgate Bridge. Then the so-called Green Grand Prix concluded with a lap of the Albert Park racetrack.
Lake Tuggeranong College, winners of the CitiPower SunRace 99.
Sports Minister Tom Reynolds waved the winner across the line. A team of 20 from an ACT secondary school celebrated victory with their creation, Spirit of Canberra.
That was a good run today. It's really fun to drive.
The Year 11 and 12 students spent 15 months preparing for the challenge. The aim of the race is to raise awareness of the potential of renewable energy. While they might be speedy, reaching up to 100 kilometres an hour, they're short on space.
I'm actually very spread out. I'm pretty short though.
Natasha Johnson, National 9 News.
Well, a dark horse has won the gruelling Sydney to Melbourne solar car race. The Spirit of Canberra had a 5-minute lead when the Sun Chasers left Bendigo this morning for the final charge to Melbourne. And with sunshine all the way, the ACT private school entry led the field as the 16 teams raced to the finish. Sunshark came in second and Aurora third. Entrants averaged a speed of almost 73 kilometres an hour during the week-long race. Good thing they're not racing in Sydney tomorrow. Well, that's the news for now. Hope you're having a great weekend and enjoying the tennis. I'm Chris Barr. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Tonight, Sydney dragged deeper into the Olympic corruption scandal as international condemnation grows. Expo in the balance, Beattie says Howard won't come to the party. And a summer of controversy, the chucking row flares again. A team of high school students from Canberra has beaten Queensland University's Sunshark in the solar race from Sydney to Melbourne. The Spirit of Canberra took line honours in the race after 6 days on the road.
The Spirit of Canberra was leading the field when the race reached the northern outskirts of Melbourne early this afternoon. Bathed in sunshine, the team of Year 11 and 12 students kept up with highway traffic as they headed towards Melbourne. Just behind them, the University of Queensland's Sunshark. Last year's winning car, the $3 million Aurora from Victoria, was back in third place. And that's how they stayed over the Westgate Bridge and onto the last leg to Albert Park. At the finish line, an enthusiastic crowd cheered home the winners. Anastasia Salamastrakis, ABC News, Melbourne. Tonight, tainted image. The Olympic bribe scandal muddies Sydney's clean reputation. Protest walk, Sri Lanka angry as the chucking controversy reignites in Adelaide. And bright finish, solar-powered racers surge across the line in the SunRace. A team of high school students from Canberra has upstaged Melbourne's champion solar car team, Aurora. The Spirit of Canberra took line honours in the Sydney to Melbourne SunRace after 6 days on the road came to an end at Albert Park today. The Spirit of Canberra was leading the field when the race reached the northern outskirts of Melbourne early this afternoon. Bathed in sunshine, the team of Year 11 and 12 students kept up with highway traffic as they headed towards Melbourne. Just behind them, the University of Queensland's Sunshark. Last year's winning car, the $3 million Aurora from Victoria, was back in third place. And that's how they stayed over the Westgate Bridge and onto the last leg to Albert Park. At the finish line, an enthusiastic crowd cheered home the winners. Despite travelling 1,790 kilometres, these first-time entrants wanted to keep driving.
Because it's been a really, really good race and a really good trip.
And in South Australia, a solar-powered boat has travelled along the Murray River in record time. A team from Prince Alfred College set a new world distance record by travelling 4,170 kilometres along the river in 56 days. Anastasia Salamastrakis, ABC News, Melbourne.
Lake Tuggeranong College has proven it's second to none when it comes to harnessing the power of the sun. On Saturday, the Spirit of Canberra took line honours in the CitiPower SunRace from Sydney to Melbourne, beating Queensland University's SunShark. Spirit averaged an astonishing 74 kilometres an hour over the length of the journey.
This is Prime Local News with Catherine Garrett.
The victorious crew of the Act 2 Spirit of Canberra 2 is heading back to Canberra tonight after taking line honours in the Solar Car Challenge, beating their more fancied rivals.
The sleek Lake Tuggeranong College solar car had a 5-minute lead when the racers left Bendigo for the final charge to Melbourne. The Canberra entry was always considered a dark horse up against the professional university teams. But the students never doubted their chances and took advantage of cloudy conditions mid-race to take control. Averaging 72.8 kilometres over the 7-stage trip, Act 2 Spirit of Canberra 2 left its main rival, Queensland University's SunShark, well behind in the race to the line. Kathy Reid, Prime Local News.
Field of sun chasers over the line in the CitiPower SunRace 99.
Looking like a grounded UFO, the sleekly proportioned Spirit of Canberra already had a 5-minute lead as the SunRace left Bendigo this morning for the final charge to Melbourne. The ACT private school entry pulled ahead of early race favourite SunShark from Queensland when cloudy conditions slowed competitors. But it was sunshine all the way today, a police escort providing safe passage across the Westgate Bridge as the 16 teams raced to the finish line. Line honours went to Spirit of Canberra with SunShark second and Melbourne-based Aurora third. During the 7-stage trip from Sydney, competitors averaged 72.8 kilometres an hour. The travelling roadshow of solar and electric vehicles aimed to promote awareness of the potential for renewable energy.
A group of Canberra secondary school students has outwitted their university counterparts to take victory in the Solar Car Challenge. Powered by the sun's energy, they beat 15 other vehicles in the race from Sydney to Melbourne.
Dwarfed by other vehicles on the road, the sleek, oddly shaped cars have attracted plenty of attention as they headed south. The 16 entrants from across the country left Sydney last Sunday, stopping overnight in regional centres before completing the 1,800-kilometre race in Melbourne. The final approach included a spectacular crossing of the Westgate Bridge, then the so-called Green Grand Prix, concluded with a lap of the Albert Park racetrack.
Lake Tuggeranong College, winners of the CitiPower SunRace 99.
Sports Minister Tom Reynolds waved the winner across the line. A team of 20 from an ACT secondary school celebrated victory with their creation, Spirit of Canberra.
That was a good run today. It's really fun to drive.
The Year 11 and 12 students spent 15 months preparing for the challenge. The aim of the race is to raise awareness of the potential of renewable energy. While they might be speedy, reaching up to 100 kilometres an hour, they're short on space.
I'm actually very spread out. I'm pretty short though.